I've got this thing I do where if I see something really cool, I want to go do that. I have to have that primary experience of, well, if that person did it, then I can do it too. How hard can it be? And sometimes I go and exhaustively research that thing that I want to do. And then other times I'm like, how hard can it be? Tonight's example of that is casting with green sand. And I figured, what one person can do, another person can do. They did it centuries ago by digging stuff out of the earth. How hard can it be? And thus begat my project for tonight. In this case, I have not exhaustively researched it. I have researched it here and there and talked to people. I know it has something to do with clay and sand and different mixes, so I'm just gonna wing it. Also don't know much about melting the metal. We're gonna have fun with that too. Hunk of clay, I'm gonna mix it with sand. The idea at the end of this is to have a substance that I can pack around a three-dimensional form and then take off, so you can save that form and have this reverse empty image to put molten metal into, and then you have the form again in aluminum or bronze or something. And then the sand form usually gets destroyed. But I haven't made a sand form since high school, and even then the instructor made the sand or purchased it, and we didn't get a whole lot of hands-on with that. So I'm gonna see what I can do tonight, just for fun, just to see how it feels. I'm gonna do roughly 1 part of this clay with 9 parts of this play sand. All I'm going to do tonight, if this works out, is to press a 3-dimensional object of some kind into the sand to get the half, the bowl basically that you want to pour liquid stuff into that then hardens basically like a jello mold or a candy mold. If it even remotely resembles the casting I'm looking for, I'll probably either make up my own frames or have a woodworker friend of mine make up wooden frames, which is like wooden frames you set down and then you pour sand into and kind of pack it so that if you were to pick that frame up, the sand would stay in it. You know what I mean? Like a block, but if you punched it, the sand would go through. You get that compacted sand and then you set your item on top of that compacted sand, put a second layer of the frame on top and then pour more sand on and pack it tight again until you have like 2 layers, 2 frames of packed sand with your item in the center. Then you carefully separate it, remove your item, and then put the top back on, and you cut 2 holes down in, one to pour in and one as like a chimney for the molten material to go through after it fills in the void, which is your 3-dimensional shape. Like making a fossil. Starting to feel good. That's what she said. Really enjoy that around and find out saying that's gotten popular is kind of a euphemism for, well, like you play dumb games, win dumb prizes, have silly behavior, and bad things are going to happen to you. I like that, but I also feel like I really want to adopt it in a PG setting as just fool around and find out. You'll find out what doesn't work, you'll find out what does work. That's usually how I go about things, unless I go absolutely off the deep end researching something first before I do it. It's all or nothing. So I've mixed too much water with this, I'm pretty sure, but other than that, that's sticking together, I think, the way I want it to. And as I recall, too much water is going to be a bad plan, and the steam will build up and screw up my casting. I still have some other things to do, so maybe it'll dry out by the time I want to make a casting. I'm not sure what type of shape to try with this first, so I might try just a simple sphere, but I've also got this lovely little ninja duck that's got just a little bit more detail, a little wing, and this delicate beak that I want to check out. Once again, we're just messing around to find out tonight. Please do leave your input, but be nice. There's my goop. There's my form. It definitely feels way too goopy to me. I think it's too wet. I think this is a bad plan. It's actually not a bad duck. Clean, fairly high-grade aluminum a friend gave me. I don't remember what they are. They are serving as wee ingot tonight for my wee crucible. Tonight I will be operating without flux. This little ladle, I'm pretty sure, is made for lead, which has a much lower melting point if you wanted to make your own slugs for bullets. And it didn't hold the heat as long as a large crucible would, and I think that's why I had to keep the heat on it. But darned if it didn't pour. Look at this. It was really pretty when I first poured it. see what's happening here in the center. This is the problem with a lot of three-dimensional castings and also cakes. If you're a baker and you try to do a very thick cake versus several layers, it'll sink in the middle. Baking is almost perfectly analogous to welding. Do I let it cool or do I quench it? I'll let it cool. Ew. All these years and that's all it took. It's not perfect, it's not detailed. I don't know if it's machinable, it's probably porous if you got into it. But that's a duck. That's a rubber duck. It was super fast. First try, fool around and find out. Let's find out if it's weldable. It cleaned up. No, didn't change my wheel. This is for carbon steel. It welds. All this time I agonized over trying casting just for fun. I know this isn't the proper way to do it. I am missing a whole lot of steps. But you know, bare bones artwork stuff? If you, like me, know the general theory behind all of this stuff and you've always wanted to try it, but like you don't have all the equipment, if you got some air drying clay and some sand, like if you've got kids and an oxy-acetylene torch, you should try this. That's even a decent weld. I can tell it's porous, like it's pulling some crud up from underneath it, but it's wet in and it's fused. It's my duck. There is a reason that I'm doing this, and it's because somebody has approached me about making a memorial for their dog. And the only real ideas or guidance that I got from them, along with like, maybe I'll do an outline of a lab or the dog's name, is they gave me the dog's favorite toy, and it's a rubber chew toy, maybe 5 inches tall. And I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? It looks like a gummy bear. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could replicate it in a casting? But that's not in my wheelhouse yet. But if a small rubber duck is in my wheelhouse now, I'm encouraged. So drop me a comment. Are you an expert? What did I do right? And what did I do wrong? And if you've never done it before, are you more encouraged to try it now? All right, so I did my pour of this special little dog toy. I was way too excited and I was on a roll that night, so I just had to do the pour, although I haven't looked at it yet. I haven't cleaned up the bear, but this is the special little dog toy that poor Muddy had for his entire life, from the time he was a puppy until the time that he passed. And so this is what the gentleman gave me when Muddy's parents asked, would you please make a memorial for our dear dog? And they said, we've got an idea for you. We've got something that might be some inspiration. I'm a welder. What am I gonna do with a rubber? And it's what started me in my whole journey of like finally doing a few rudimentary pours in here. I took some clay and some sand and I mixed up what I think is a fairly decent casting sand, and I did it. I made myself a loaf in this silver platter because, believe it or not, in my shop this is the only thing that even remotely resembles like the right size and depth for what I needed. And it's cool, it's a silver platter. I took gummy bear here and I kind of made the loaf with a bit of a rectangular void in it, just about that size and shape. And I put little Mr. Gummy Bear here in that void, and I kind of packed it around, make sure there were no cracks all the way around, and made sure that there was enough clearance that I could pull it straight out if I was real careful finessing with my fingers. Plus there was suction keeping this thing into there. I knew that was gonna be a problem, but I figured I'd just try it, what the heck, and I did, and it worked. Then I melted the aluminum with my torch in that cast iron ladle and did multiple pours and multiple layers, so there might be some laminations. I'm already predicting that there might be some areas that did not fill in all the way perfectly, but either I'll melt this down and re-pour it, or I might be able to fill it in, you know, butter it up a little bit with the TIG. This was super hot, I let it cool naturally. Let's turn it out and see how it turned out. Ready? Ooh, baked. Oh yeah. Between the heat and the air drying, that's solid. Okay, I can already see some layers. Huh! Yeah, I see layers, but that's not terrible. Here's my form. Here's aluminum gummy bear dog toy. It's not terrible. I didn't measure anything with my sand. I didn't ream it. I used whatever random aluminum I had kicking around, and I did it in multiple pours. I did everything, just not by the book. That's what I wanted, kind of. So what I think I'm going to do now is touch my TIG torch to it in a couple areas where it doesn't need much filler, where it just needs to be buttered up in order to reduce that line. Och, du lieber Gummibären! Not completely done, but done enough that I think I can assess that it's probably going to go on the memorial and that I'll be successful with future castings. And ta-da, here's the finished piece. I discussed it with the customers, and even though it's a little bit vague, they like it that way because now people can ask me about it and they get to tell a story about their dog. Custom doggy memorial. All out of aluminum roses, my first aluminum flowers. I made a mini shepherd's crook to go with it. It might be too dark to showcase right now. I might have to do it in the morning.